Hey everyone, John the Morgile here, checking in for a new Flat Earth video for you. I hope you do enjoy it. In this video, Stolen History, Lost Languages, and Flat Earth, we're going to begin just simply embracing the general concept of our forgotten history involving an extinct and forgotten worldwide civilization, which was wiped out at some point in the past by some catastrophe or even series of catastrophes, often buried under meters of mud. The primary focus today, rather than strictly setting out to make a case for the underlying principles of this historical mud flood, as it were, we're going to delve into a more of a speculative consideration, an attempt to outline the broad strokes of how this previous mysterious culture might have fallen and how our culture may have subsequently wound up in its current state as inheritors of the remnants. To be sure, in our modern state of advanced worldwide civilization, we collectively suffer with an acute case of cultural amnesia, wherein the so-called experts have convinced themselves in a delusion that they have a complete and accurate record of the chronological events through the past eras leading up to today, seamlessly. Unfortunately, if you skeptically examine this official historical narrative, it becomes clear that this is all very delusional. On one hand, you have the statist historians who worship at the altar of scientism and hold complete faith in the official version of the events found in this historical textbooks as propagated by the Freemasonic Ivy League higher education scam. On the other hand, you have independent researchers who, while they may not necessarily hold Ivy League credentials, are skeptical of the official narrative and continue to find evidence that the official version of history is laced with not just accidental errors, but in many cases it's rife with deliberately concocted lies crafted to cover up the truth about our history and our very selves and our connection to the Creator, the Most High. Before we get into the meat of this video, I wanted to introduce you to our very first video sponsor, Factor 75. So I'm going to roll that plug really quick and get right back into the video. So one thing y'all probably don't know about me is that, well, I love to cook. I love to eat a good meal at home, but I don't always have time to plan out our weekly meals, go to the grocery store, start prepping something for dinner, of course, go back to the grocery store to pick up something I forgot, usually one of the most important elements of the dish, of course, and then, when it's all said and done, try to make the case that it's only fair that someone else should get stuck cleaning up the mountain of dishes afterwards. Not it. As we all know, the more effort you put into cooking, the dish stack grows in direct proportion with the compliments to the chef, unless you're smart and get Factor. So when Factor offered to sponsor this video, I was instantly like, yeah, and I was really excited to get this integration set up because, you see, I already know how awesome Factor's meals are. The first time I was introduced to Factor was a few years ago. I was jamming on the guitar over at a friend's house when his wife brought us a couple of plates of what I assumed was a homemade dinner that she had toiled over for hours because it was so fresh and delicious. It was really, really good. I was surprised to find out that the heavenly creamy lemon pepper chicken with rice pilaf was actually delivered fresh, never frozen, right to their door by Factor every week. So after dinner, when I offered to help out with the dishes, I was shocked to find out that there weren't any dishes other than the few plates we had used just then. So if you like homemade gourmet meals, but you don't always have time, you should take advantage of this incredible offer from Factor for our channel viewers. With Factor, you don't have to worry about prep, no more mountains of dishes afterwards, no more unhealthy fast food. Factor offers the most convenient way to eat well while eating right, with easy planning and ordering right to your door. Factor's menus are updated weekly and include 27 plus meals and 34 plus add-on options. Choose your favorite meals or let their chefs craft your order based on your taste preferences and meal history. While you can microwave these savory master crafted meals, I personally choose to bake them in the oven. As while it does take a little longer, in my opinion, the baked Factor meals are as good, maybe even a little better than what I make from scratch for Mina and me at home. When I have the time to go through the hassle of shopping, cooking, and then the dreaded cleanup, all the hassle is gone with Factor. With Factor, meals come together in minutes, taking the guesswork out of what to make for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Factor even offers meals for those looking to follow keto, which is awesome, low calorie if you're trying to watch the weight, or vegan and vegetarian diets as well. So definitely check that out if you're into the vegan or vegetarian thing. I know a lot of our viewers are. So with this special offer, just for our viewers, you can get half off of your first box. Just use our special link down in the description below, or use our custom promo code when checking out, which is Factor SE36047. All that'll be down in the description. Remember, in order to get this special discount from Factor, you must use an email address that is new to Factor. So if you want to get this huge discount on thoroughly delectable, fully prepared gourmet meals delivered right to your doorstep, use promo code Factor SE36047 at checkout, or use our direct link, https://strms.net/factor75_the Again, all that is in the description below. So thanks so much to Factor for sponsoring this video. If you want to support this channel while getting a great deal on some really fantastic meals delivered right to your door, follow the link in the description below, or again, use our promo code at checkout. Now back to the video. Getting right back into it, and thanks again to the sponsor of this video, Factor 75. Many independent researchers have shown evidence that about 1,000 years was added to the official length of history since Christ for a host of potential reasons. The theory that I think most plausible is ostensibly to convince us future generations that a very abrupt cataclysmic end to one singular worldwide civilization was instead a gradual, isolated process involving these unrelated civilizations the world over, rising and falling over the course of millennia. There are a few key date ranges in history which exhibit breaches in the continuity of history in terms of the languages. So I will ask the question, what could cause a massive advanced civilization to fall so completely that even their very spoken language is relatively quickly lost and forgotten? So just going through this official timeline real quick, in 323 BC, Greece fell, but of course continuity of the Greek language somehow remained intact until our modern era without any sort of loss of the written or spoken Greek language. Then in 30 BC, so about 300 years after Greece fell, they say that Egypt fell, and then in about 641 AD, Egyptian language was replaced by Arabic. In 476 AD, Rome then fell, and in 600 AD, the Latin language died out, so it was no longer spoken. And then in 900 AD, the Mayan civilization fell, and their language was replaced ostensibly around the 1500s. So that's just sort of going through this timeline here. Now, in the case of the ancient Egyptian language, one of several possible examples, their written hieroglyphs probably would have been lost to our understanding forever were it not for the Rosetta Stone, discovered in 1799, which was key to deciphering the mystery of the written Egyptian language. The Mayan language, on the other hand, is still a mystery to scholars, as they have no idea how it was spoken by native Mayan people and can only interpret bits and pieces of their hieroglyphs, since no Central American equivalent of the Rosetta Stone survived the European invasion and subsequent decimation of indigenous Native American cultures. Official history would have us believe that the long litany of dead languages fizzled out naturally over long periods of time, which were slowly eclipsed by other languages which were injected into the culture by conquerors and immigrants. But in the case of the Mayan civilization, their culture's language appears to have been intentionally snuffed out by the so called Christian conquerors starting in about the 1500s. Of course, conquest and overthrowing existing cultures is about as far from Christian as one can possibly get, indeed. This is all a bit upside down, though, isn't it? One would expect the longest dead languages to be the most difficult to recover from the depths of history. However, the very opposite appears to be true, that is, according to the official narrative of history. The ancient Greek language persisted, although the Greek civilization allegedly fell over 2,000 years ago. But the Mayan civilization is said to have remained active until about 900 AD, and their language is the most complete loss of all of the ones mentioned. While the Egyptian civilization fell just shy of 2,000 years ago, we had the convenient vehicle of the Rosetta Stone to bridge the gap in deciphering the written language, so ancient Egyptian wasn't completely and irrevocably lost, as was the Mayan language. Incidentally, I must ask the audience if I stumbled upon a new historical Mandela effect. Without looking it up online, which three languages do you remember being carved on the Rosetta Stone? I'll give you a minute to think about it before I reveal the answer, but my memory of the topic was, let's just say, incorrect. So maybe that's just my old age messing with my memory, or maybe not. So I'll try to put a survey in here if I can remember how to do it and get it to work. While the Latin language, the official language of ancient Rome, didn't completely die in the sense that it was indecipherable, but according to history, with the fall of Rome, that language slowly fell out of use and was essentially merged into several Romanesque or like Creole languages, which ultimately replaced Latin altogether. Then, fast forward a few hundred more years, and the Mayan civilization falls, and their language is completely lost in terms of how it was spoken as well as in written decipherment. This is all kind of counterintuitive according to the official historical timeline. However, if you humor the hypothesis that all of these civilizations fell at around the same time due to a singular major worldwide catastrophe, and a relatively short period of time has actually elapsed since their contemporaneous demise, it actually makes a lot more sense. Especially considering the fact that the Mayan culture was systematically and intentionally snuffed out, their knowledge erased from the coffers of history, much like the early Christian church was snuffed out and stricken from all the official records by the so-called Holy Roman Empire. In our upside-down world, it seems the further back in time a civilization falls, the better preserved their language is somehow. But as for the civilizations which fell more recently, their language is somehow completely dead, where zero understanding of it was of how it was spoken is preserved, and we're forced to decipher and piece together interpretations of the written language only. I purposely omitted the Sumerian civilization and their lost language from the list above, but true to form, the Sumerian civilization is claimed to have fallen in 2000 BC, long before anyone on this list above. However, in the 1800s, a bunch of cuneiform tablets were supposedly found, helping to begin deciphering the very long dead and lost language of the Sumerians. Another example of how this small portion of official history seems upside down or counterintuitive at the very least. As for the potential Mandela effect that I just mentioned, the three languages that are actually carved on the Rosetta Stone are Greek hieroglyphic, Greek, Egyptian hieroglyphic, and Demotic. Let me know what you came up with on your list, and if your recollection of the three languages found on the Rosetta Stones were correct or way off as I was. So getting into the concept of a breakaway rogue civilization. What if there is actually a highly advanced civilization with technology far more advanced than our own, which has persisted since the Great Flood and considers our people as being on par with, like, say, cattle or a renewable resource or simply as slaves? Hypothetically, if they have the ability to topper entire civilizations on a whim and retreat to some unknown recesses of the world, which we are not privy to, it would explain a lot, I think. For one thing, the creation of the heliocentric Great Deception, mind control of the highest caliber, keeping us off balance in our basic understanding of the world around us. One key component to mind control is to induce the victim into a state of confusion, confounding our very core understanding of the world around us or our foundational belief systems, leaving us in a primed state, ready to be misled about practically everything, including the existence of God, to the unique importance of life. In the standard scientific worldview, life is a mere chemical accident which spontaneously came into being due to chance and, of course, millions of years of evolution. For second, the mainstream media would have us believe that UFOs are piloted by aliens from another planet. Whenever people catch glimpses of UFOs or UAPs, they are trained to believe that these craft are piloted by aliens from another planet. This would be a perfect cover for a rogue civilization that is based at some point, say, deep underground or south of Antarctica. If you convince everyone that Antarctica is just the bottom of the ball, then there's no reason to explore beyond the far south. Thirdly, according to them, we live on a planet flying around in space, so there's no use looking for whoever created the UFO's home continent because it couldn't exist on the ball Earth. There's no room for it. So not only is the ball Earth sort of a prison for our minds, it's a psychological barrier so persistent that it behaves as sort of a physical barrier of greater exploration beyond our known realm. Let's not forget pretty much all ancient accounts from sources like the Bible or even the Mahabharata and other Vedic texts tell tales of powerful beings who traveled around on flying chariots of fire. It appears the UFO phenom is not that modern, actually, which defies the theory that it's strictly a modern advent. 4, they had to convince us that there is no God, no intelligent creator to the world, so that they could trap us in the brutal cycle of materialism, consumerism, and statism. Instead of putting our collective faith in the Most High, Yah, creator of all things, people put their faith primarily in money, this fiat currency, which, by the way, is sigil magic, that is used to siphon our energy and our prosperity, funneling it into the coffers of their own civilization. Life in this world has been made impossible without participating in the monetary system designed to scam and enslave us. So although I'm not in agreement with the Federal Reserve Bank, good luck operating in this realm without using their money. I mean, they've got us good. They had to convince us that human life, not to mention life in general, is a mere physical, chemical accident brought about by chance and chaos, promoting the utter disregard for the suffering of our brothers and sisters, placing material wealth above all else, ignoring our inherent spiritual connectedness, focusing on the lower vibrational frequencies of carnal pleasures and instant gratification at the expense of their own brothers and sisters. Our political system makes a lot more sense under this sort of hypothetical light of a breakaway rogue civilization, wherein a disconnected, inept, and arrogant clique of plutocrats take turns pretending to represent our best interests in the political system, but are instead actually just perpetuating the system that we already have in place to squabble against one another for scraps, while the lion's share of our collective efforts benefit the top 1%. Instead of seeing this corrupt and unjust system for what it is, we are indoctrinated at a very young age that it is the best system that civilization ever saw. The for-profit medical system, this is sort of number 6 in the list I'm going through here, the for-profit medical system which hides cures finally makes some degree of sense under this lens. There's a natural cure for the big C that has been known for decades, that has been covered up by the very medical industry that claims to cure cancer with chemo and radiation, which usually ends in death for the patient. I would tell you on this video what that natural cure is. However, I would run the risk of getting my channel shut down. But if you research Laetrile, the hunzas, and apricot kernels, you'll find that practically all forms of malignant tumorous cancers appear to be a vitamin B17 deficiency, much like scurvy is a vitamin C deficiency. It seems inconceivable how the medical industry would do such a thing, and then how could they possibly get away with such antics scot-free for so long, until you consider this hypothesis that our current civilization is a mere front for what is essentially a giant scam designed to siphon our very life energy away from ourselves and our local communities, exporting the fruits of our collective labors to distant lands which we don't even know exist or where they are or what they're called, hypothetically at least. Is this the reason why the globe Earth deception is so integral to the cover-up of our history? To prevent us from understanding just who was responsible for the overthrowing and usurping of a vast and ancient civilization, which has left but traces of its legacy in the form of ruins the world over? The current state of the world is set up to essentially enslave most people for the benefit of a very few who prefer that we're totally misled about the most important questions like the shape of the world, God the Creator, Yeshua, Jesus, and the prophets, and what happened to the great builders of ancient times. When we view history through this lens, it answers a lot of questions and opens up 10 more for each question that it answers. If there is some highly advanced breakaway civilization enjoying free energy, preventing us from getting a foothold by keeping us at odds with one another, and by exploiting our minor differences in opinion to ensure that we never come together and rise up against the secretive and tyrannical overlords, the same ones poisoning our water with the fluoride. The question is, are they even human? So with that, I'm going to wrap this one up. Thanks so much for watching. Just a quick housekeeping item, my PayPal account recently was frozen, and so I am unable to send, receive, or withdraw funds from PayPal. It's hit me pretty detrimentally at the worst possible time. So other than the sponsor of this video, which is... sorry, I cut my phone off there. So, of course, the sponsor of this video is Factor 75. If you want to support this channel, a good way to do that would be to get your huge discount on your first box of food from Factor 75, which is really good. And also, if you don't want to do it that way, although my PayPal account is froze, I still have Venmo and Cash App, which are both found with the Morgile. I'll put links in the description. So, all right, thanks so much, guys. God bless, love you, and see you in the next one. Bye.